Hey, Jonathan here. So let's go ahead and 3D model a hand sketch using Archicad as we learn its foundations. Let's do it. We have provided a file for you so that you can follow it. But since these are the foundations of Archicad, I want to explain to you that you are now able to start a file from absolute zero, which is what I'm going to do for the first exercise. When you open your file, it's going to look like this. But before, I want you to see that you could actually start from 0, 0. Let me show you. You go to File, New. Then here you start with the template. You start with the Archicad 24 template, of course. Then you go to Launch a new instance of Archicad. This is because you already have one open. And use the default profile. I don't see mine here. So once you have given it a second to load, it should look like something like this. So let's get started with import and scaling. Let's start by creating a worksheet from the project map. Make sure to go all the way down to worksheets here. If you don't see it, take it as a good advice is always to close all the little arrows so that you can see everything more clearly. You go to the right click, new independent worksheet. This is essentially a see-through paper that you can just put on top and you just work on 2 dimensions. You're going to call it nothing. Just save it as a new worksheet. Then you're going to drag and drop from the learning materials provided the AC drawing that we gave it to you. So now as you can see, we have it inside. You select the object, you go to Edit, Move, Rotate. You click once in the middle, you stretch downwards, click once to set up the reference. Now when you move, it should come with you. Wait, click once more, and then you should have it. Next step is to make it sure that you go near the 0. As you can see here, there's a tiny X that you can't really touch, you could just see. That's the 0 of Archicad. Make sure always to work near it, okay? Then you're going to move this one by click and dragging it as close as possible to the 0 as you can. Now we're going to resize it or scale it. So now that we want to scale it, we're going to go ahead and go click. We go on Edit, Reshape, Resize. Okay, we click one time. We extend and we notice that the distance looks a little bit weird. And that is because usually Archicad is always going to start in millimeters, which is very annoying. So we're going to go out of here. So we're going to say, for now, we're just going to go ahead and click by the end. And now we know that we want to do 30 meters. So 30 meters would be 30, 1, 2, 3 zeros. And that should scale it up to 30 meters. Now, since I hate doing this every time, it's a good idea for you to go to File, Work Preferences, Working Units, and change that to meter. Assign to decimals and click OK. Now when you click on M, you can measure the result. And as you can see here, it's going to measure around 30 meters. Now we're going to go to the view map and then go all the way down and click Save View here. So this is essentially adding a new view, which is basically the worksheet with this particular layer turned on. Now we're going to go from the model view. From the model view, we're going to go to the stories, ground floor, and double click on that. And then right click on the generated worksheet and say that we want to show that one as trace reference. Make sure to click on this little arrow over here and then make sure that figure is turned on. And that what usually happens when this is like the first stress everybody gets with Archicad, which is I don't see it, it's not doing what I want. So just please follow the instructions and then you should be able to see it and then play with what reference is and what the active layer is doing. So now we should be ready to trace reference. So I'm going to move over to the other file that we have provided so that we can see exactly what's going on. I also see another difference, and that is that this is all yellow. It's because we can actually change the way it looks. So I can click on original color and then we see the original color. We can reference lower so that we can see better what we're going to draw on top. Also, notice how we can flip and we can go from ground floor to worksheet and from worksheet to ground floor. For example, now active is the ground floor, as I'm being able to select these particular elements that are already designed. But if I click here, I can switch the reference with active, essentially taking me to the worksheet where I can select this one and look at the ground floor as a reference. So I basically have switched. So what I want to do here is I want to move this around a little bit just so that the square lands between or in the region of the markers. That's it. Let me switch over to the file we have provided so we can follow. So essentially what we have here is we are at the ground floor, we are at the worksheet, and we're looking at the ground floor as a reference. We want to switch that. And now we should be on the ground floor looking at the worksheet. That means that the worksheet is the reference, meaning that if I go all the way to 0, I don't see it anymore. If I go all the way up, I see it a lot. So let's go a little bit in between. So the first exercise we have done. Let's move on to the second one, and let me teach you about the first command you're ever going to learn, and it's called morph. Morph is the most simplest way to start a 3D model in Archicad. For that, we're basically going to change the geometry method. This is every command in Archicad works like this. You start a command, and then you look on top for its settings. I can now scroll left and right. Try not to get lost with all these buttons. You don't need them at all. Maybe just the first one. Make sure that the geometry method is set to polygonal, or basically using the G, you can switch between them. Now you can go ahead and start drawing on top. For example, here, click once, click twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, and now we have a square. You can actually go and even move on, not only do straight lines, but as you can see here, this is called the pet palette. It gives you options of the command that you're currently running. Now, if I want to do a curve, as you see here, I want to select the second one, which is the one that's going to allow me to click on the last point and then change its arc. And then again, click the last point and then change the arc. Then switch back over to straight line, and that's it. So basically repeat this as many times as you have trace on top of everything. Make sure to activate the snap guide, which is this one here, in case it's not. It's incredibly useful. Let's move on to the next exercise. Now, let's imagine that you have finished here. Now that you have modeled this, I just want to show you what you did. If you switch over to the 3D view, either from here or from the project map, move down to 3D, generic perspective, and double click on it, you should be able to see these two are the ones that we did. These are the ones that we provided. Here we still have nothing because it's just a 2D file that we don't see. And now we're going to move to the third exercise, which is extrusion. Now that we have extruded it, remember how to navigate by pressing down the shift key and the scroll wheel. And now we're going to start by clicking on one of the shapes and make it a long click in place. Eventually you should get the pet palette. If it doesn't pop up at first, take a deep breath and try again. Then try again and again until it pops. It should come eventually. Try long press without moving, long press moving. This is essential and might be the second big stress you get with Archicad, getting the pet palette to work. But you really need it, so take the time to make sure it works. Now that you have it, look for the button that's called Press Pull, as I'm showing it now. Click on it, and this essentially is going to change the modification to push and pull the extrude, to basically extrude what we have done before. To add a back vertex, for example, you can also go ahead and use the pet palette, maybe on the corner. You can click on one of the lines you want to add a point to, wait for it, and then add a vertex to it, for example, like this. And then click again and then extrude. You can also offset that as well. What else you can do with the pet palette is you can add an arc point, for example, from here. Pet palette again. And then here, add a curve. You can do that here. All right, so when you extrude that, again, it's going to look differently. There's something else you can do once extruded. You can keep modifying this. For example, click on it and wait. And then you can add a chamfer to it here. You can say a chamfer, radius 10. Okay, and then as you can see, you get a chamfer. It's not really defined, but this is the way you would do it. There's another one that's very useful, which is drawing on top. of what already has been done. This reminds me a lot of the way I used to model in SketchUp, which is basically select it, click on the point where I want to add a line to, wait for the pet palette again, click on the little pencil, and then essentially draw a line on top of the morph. This allows me to then click on one of the sides and extrude that part upwards or even push it downwards, essentially modifying the modification that we've done before. These are, for example, you could either use that one to create a door this way. For example, you start here, you want to sketch on top of it, then we go upwards, sideways, all the way down, and then click on that one and pull it all the way to the back, essentially creating a door. If this whole thing was way too quick, it doesn't matter. We will be checking all this very, very slowly in the actual modeling course. But this for me is important that you understand that you are now able to import a sketch, trace it, extrude it, and continue going. So for now, we're going to move on to the last exercise here, which is exported as an STL, which is what we usually need for 3D printing. For that, we're going to select everything that we want to export. We hit on F5, or basically right-click, show selection marquee, which is F4. Change that. Then we're going to go to File, Save As. Here we select the format and we change it to stereolithography, which is STL. Save it onto desktop. And then for the name, I always like to go with date all the way around. I mean, the other way and the other way. And now you know what date is today. I wonder how long these videos are running. Let's go to then description, which is hand sketch in this case. And then the scale, just so I don't forget. We click on save, save, and then in a Mac, for example, you can click on it and just check it out with the spacebar straight away. So this is it. This you can import into whatever slicer and generate your 3D print straight away. So that was it. That's the Foundations course. We have gone from 0 to 3D print. That's a little bit a lot for a Foundations course. But keep in mind, if parts of this last chapter were too quick for you, don't even worry about it. We'll start completely from the beginning once we start the modeling courses. Thank you very much for following. I hope this is going to help you. See you in the next course.